Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the second Joyful Business Live show. So I'm so excited to have you here. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, gosh, I'm not even sure what to say. This has been such a glorious Friday. Just the weather here in Atlanta is beautiful. It is gorgeous, sunny. We're right in the midst of summer and just loving it. It actually just plays up to the whole abundance mindset that we're going to be talking about today. Hello, ladies. Hi, waving across Atlanta, across Georgia to you guys, and across the states. Welcome, Marie and Lauren. So yeah, this is my new show for joyful business owners. So those of you who just love having a business that is filled with joy, creativity, passion, and meaningful work, and yay on the thumbs up and the love notes. I appreciate that. That's so, I know the people who are here, that is so what you're about, is having this joyful business. It's also for people who are, maybe you started your business and it was really joyful. The idea of it was really joyful and you loved it. And then maybe it's gotten tough. Maybe you've misplaced that joy. And so we're going to be talking about that as well. Hey, Tim, so glad you're here. Hi, Marty. It's great to see you here. So I'm going to give you a little peek behind the scenes of the creation of the Joyful Business live show. So for almost a year, I have been saying I want to revive my podcast. I had a podcast a decade ago, before video really came out really super strong. And I kept saying I should, which is always a clue, right? I should do my podcast. And I had lots of energy around doing the podcast, but it just wasn't happening. It was feeling kind of hard and difficult, and lots of particles and pieces. And then I started thinking about, and I was trying to decide, do I want to do a video show? Do I want to do a podcast? Kind of back and forth between the two. And of course, all you women in particular know that, doing a video show just requires a little bit more effort as far as your clothes and your hair and your makeup and all that good stuff. And I know some of you men think about that too. Anyways, that's a whole nother episode that we could do. And I also know that I could do the video and I could pull out the audio and I could put that into a podcast as well. And we may go there. But what I did is I came back to the very principle that I teach, which is all about really owning my unique, beautiful brilliance, right? And part of my UBB, my unique, beautiful brilliance, is that, I'm highly visual and really creative, and I love fun and beauty and colors and texture. And I think it's part of what has us come alive. And when we come alive, then we're more likely to show up fully. And that's when we're more magnetic. That's when we're attracting opportunities to us. So I started in June, I tested out, doing the Joyful Business Live show. And so now I'm totally excited about it. Got my newly added butterflies. I've been told you can't have too many butterflies. My magic fairy lights. Again, it makes me feel excited and interested. I think it makes it more interesting for you all. And it also has me be really engaged and I want to create this show. So I've already put it on the calendar through January. We're going to do this for the next 6 months and see where we go with it. So yeah, twice a month on Friday afternoons. Come on over and put it on your calendar and join us. The next one that we're going to be doing is Friday, July 26th. And I am excited because I'm going to be, on that one, I'm going to be bringing in a woman that we're going to kind of co-create, interview each other about using essential oils. And it's the Entrepreneur Success Kit using essential oils. And it's going to be all about 10 common things that we're always having happen in our business, whether it's wanting to attract more clients and abundance, or whether we're in a state of overwhelm, going into doubt. And then how do you use essential oils to shift that? And so yeah, we're going to have fun. That's on July 26th. So put that on your calendar. So some of these shows are going to be me talking about all things joyful business, things like creative marketing strategies, an empowered mindset, things like essential oils, and then I'll bringing people to you that I'll interview that have something that is like a joyful business piece, but it's like they do it in their own unique way. So I'll be sharing lots of cool people with you as well. Some of you might be like, okay, I get joy, but like, wow, Laura, you're really into the joy thing. What is that all about? So before we start on our sharing about cultivating the abundance mindset, I want to share with you where this was really birthed from. So going way back into the 90s, in the Wayback Time Machine, I was in corporate. I was in VP of marketing in the shopping center business. With one of the top shopping center management operators and management companies. In the midst of 6 years, we went through 5 buyouts, mergers, takeovers in all different ways, and totally lost my mojo, lost my passion. That is an incredibly stressful environment to go through once, even twice. But to go through it continuously over 6 years was just pretty crazy making. And so finally got to the point, I hired a coach, decided what I wanted to do. I wanted to coach and bring together marketing and coaching together and personal potential. And I also had this underlying belief, this is way back before there was all these studies about positivity that, or positive psychology. I also had this kind of inner knowing, like there has to be a place for joy in the workplace. Well, sure enough, a colleague sent me an article. It was just a short article by this woman, Dr. Barbara Fredrickson. She is now the author of a book called Positivity, but she had done studies about happiness and joy in the workplace, and studies have shown, so it's a proven fact, that when you are in your joy, when you're happier, when you're happy in business or your career, that you are more creative, right? You're going to come up with more ideas. You're more innovative, so you're going to come up with out-of-the-box thinking, out-of-the-box solutions. You are more confident, which to me, it's like, just think about it. Like when you're feeling good, right? You do good. Like pick up the phone and call a potential client or write that email and say, hey, let's get together, right? At some basic level, we know when we feel good, we do good. And then you're also more confident, right? Well, you're more confident, you're also more loyal and committed. So you'll stick with that idea, you'll stick with that company, you'll stick with the program that you've created or the Joyful Business Live show, and you'll continue and keep it going when you're really aligned with your joy and happiness. And that was truly, that article is why I birthed that name of the Center for Joyful Business, because I really wanted to create a place where people could come and we could look at business and marketing, and especially solopreneurs who have, you're creating your own community and your own accountability, but a place where you could go and do things in a more meaningful, authentic, from the inside out kind of way. So there's a little history for you. That's why I started my business and how I started my business and why I call it. I always want to say we, because I always feel like it's a community. So if you hear me say we, yes, I do have an assistant, and I have a cat and Lucky Kitty, and I consider you all part of the business growth. So that's why I always say we, because I do feel like it's a co-creative type of concept. So thank you all for coming. I see more people joining. Hey, Leslie, it's good to see you. What I want to share next? Well, here's where I want to point you, because this is something that I do. And those of you who are in the Joyful Business Studio, or you're one of my private clients, I always do this, is to talk about joy flow sightings. Joy flow sightings. And this is a way of, directly relates to creating an abundant mindset. An abundance mindset is, it's much like gratitude and appreciation. Sometimes I feel like gratitude, we hear that so much, and that sometimes it feels like I must find gratitude in this situation, that it can sometimes suck the life out of it. Maybe that's just me, but I love playing with the idea, where's the joy flowing? Feels like a little bit of a gentler approach. And it's like, what's going on in your life, in your business, in your world, where the joy is flowing, right? I have this new hummingbird feeder that my client Ken had recommended, and it attaches to the door on my deck, and I can sit there 4 feet away and see the hummingbirds come right up to the door. I can be standing in the kitchen and see them through the door, and that brings me such pleasure, such joy. So that's one example. So my question is, I want you to think about, and even if you're willing to put it in the chat, what are some joy flow sightings for you? They might be something as simple as enjoying summer and the flow of the hummingbirds, the hum of the hummingbirds, and it might be a new client. I got a new client this week. I got a new potential client this week. I got a podcast. There's been all sorts of great opportunities coming this way. Another podcast interview invitation. Starting officially the Joyful Business Live show, that's a joy flow sighting. Having you all here with me today is a joy flow sighting. So I'd love to hear from some of you. What are your joy flow sightings? I'm going to scroll down here, and I would love for you to post what's going on for you. And what I know is that the more that we start seeing that the joy is flowing and other people are inspired, the more that it inspires us, right? It's like, oh yeah, they're getting new clients. That's possible for me too. People want to be in the energy of success. They want to be in the energy of joy. And yes, we can get triggered. That's another podcast where we'll talk about that. But in general, people want to be around positive people, and they want to be in the flow where they feel like there's expansion going on. So that's what this show is all about. How do you be that person for yourself, and then also bringing that out into the world so that you actually will start attracting other people who want to be in that. Just saying hi to everybody who's joined, Liz, Margaret Ann. Margaret Ann, so great to see you. It's been a long time, Luana. Yeah, so please, write in, what are your joy flow sightings? And share with everybody what's going well for you. So that's one of my first tips is make it a daily practice, or if nothing else, at least like a Friday practice. In this group, I always ask, what are the joy flow sightings? Where are things going for you? So it becomes part of the culture. It's not that you don't have crappy things happen to you, right? It's not that sometimes you don't feel stuck and feel doubtful, feel overwhelmed. And what I know is even in the midst of all of that, as I'm going to talk about in a little bit, there's golden nuggets, right? The sun is still shining somewhere, right? The sun is still shining over the clouds, right? It's not a Pollyanna thing. It's actually, the more you start cultivating it, you actually start training your brain to look for evidence of joy flow. So the more you do it, the more you'll start looking and saying, oh, here's something for my list. Oh, here's another thing for my list. And before you know it, you'll just start looking for joy flow, and that's what you'll start focusing on. And it's so much easier to create from that place of joy flow, right? Where you feel good, you're more likely to do good. All right. So let's move into talking about this idea of cultivating an abundance mindset. And I'm going to make a request that as you hear me say things that you love, please give us the thumbs up and give us the likes, thumbs up, and little hearts, or put the quote in there if it's something that you really want to solidify for yourself. You really want to make it real. So, I've always been a positive person. I've always been into possibilities and hopeful. And a lot of people will say now, they'll say, oh my God, of course your business is called Joyful Business. You're so joyful. Well, I've always been like that. I've always been a positive, optimistic person, but I can go into my depths of despair with the best of everybody. And so I can, have had my times of depression, had my times of massive fear and anxiety and wondering, is this all there is? And can the world be different? Going through 6 buyouts and mergers in 5 years, I was steeped in that. And yet what I know is that every time I started realizing that, started taking back my power, that I started realizing that actually I'm the one who, I don't want to say controls it, but I'm the one who allows it, right? I'm the one, because you can't control anything, because that's one of the big cosmic jokes. So you can't actually control, but you can allow in happiness. You can allow in the joy when there's joy. You can sit for a moment and enjoy the sun shining down. I'm looking out at all the green trees, this forest that's behind me, and just seeing how the sun shines on those leaves. And I can just take a breather and say, yes, the world is a beautiful place. And then that makes me feel good. And then again, you feel good, you do good. So about 5 years ago, not about, actually, almost exactly 5 years ago, I went through my second divorce. And and I really made a point. It hit me hard. Again, I went through a period where I lost my mojo, and I started questioning everything. Do I want to do this? Should I go get a job? What am I meant to do? What do I want my life to look like? Where do I want to live? All sorts of things. We all have those moments that are wake-up moments. Whether it's the empty nest, whether it's a health scare, something with our aging parents, all sorts of crises that happen. Losing a job, great recession kind of thing. All those are, wake-up calls. And so my second divorce, that was a huge wake-up call. And I went through this big period where I just had lost, really lost that drive, and that couldn't even figure out what the meaningful work was that I wanted to do. And I started working with a grief coach, and I did a lot of self-care, a lot of energy work. I went through this amazing grief work that I now bring into my business because I don't say I love it so much, but I see how powerful it is. And I went into the unspoken grief and acknowledged the grief, not just around my divorce, around, 2 marriages, around the financial stuff that happened during the Great Recession, around different things that happened with each of my parents, different things for each of my kids. I even did a whole grief process around my business that is incredibly powerful, that actually I'm going to be sharing that in a training coming up, which is an unusual kind of training, but it's in the Joyful Business Studio, which is my monthly membership program. The class I'm going to be teaching in August is forgiveness and grief in your business, and how it's actually the key to success. One of the keys to success, but how it actually gets in the way if you don't go through that. And so I've had a huge outpouring of people saying, oh my gosh, I really need this work. Okay, little plug over there for the Joyful Business Studio. You can go over and check it out at joyfulbusinessstudio.com. All right, I sound like a little radio announcer. So this is what I love about Friday afternoons, because there's just always kind of this fun energy, and I'm going to do my best to bring it on these Friday shows. So back to my really deep story where I was going through the grief, lost my mojo. One of the things I realized in going through the grief process so deeply and intensely for about a year, going through the grief healing process, was that I as much as I was about joyful business and abundance, I still had this kind of vision of abundance being out there. I'm putting my hand out there. That it was still about like abundance comes to me, and I'll be happy when I really find the right soulmate who's really a healthy soulmate for me. I will be happy when, I make a certain amount of money. I'll be happy when. And what I started realizing was like, it's right here, right now, and it's just available for me to say yes to. And that it's more about abundance coming through me and from me than it is about coming to me. And the coming through me, that's about receiving, right? And being with the abundance that is right here, right now. Just checking in here with everybody. And so this abundance that comes through you. And there's a huge shift when I started realizing that on a much deeper level. And I actually started going through this program where we identified 3 different types of stories that we tend to run in our mind. And one of them is a victim story, which nobody wants to claim. Nobody wants to own that, right? But it's sneaky, right? There's the obvious victim story, where it's, well, if only there wasn't the Great Recession, then my money, my income would have been fine. If only everybody hadn't got laid off and became coaches, then it wouldn't be so competitive, right? And you're kind of victim to that. Or, you have these personal stories that run you, that, if only I would be in a really happy, soulful relationship, with my life partner, destined life partner, then I'll be happy, right? It's, if then I will be happy. So, and there's ways that we move, we start healing. I know a lot of you on here have done a lot of healing. So you've healed a lot of those victim stories. And they can be really sneaky, right? There's still subtle ways that they come up. So that's one place to look for, is where in the abundance mindset are you actually getting caught by victim stories, where you're putting the blame on somebody else, where you're being the martyr. Are you putting your blame on, well, if only I didn't have kids, little kids, then I could work all summer and I could make a lot more money. And we're not saying these things are right or wrong, or there isn't some grain of truth, but we're taking a victim role to it. So it's like it's happening to us, right? Then often what happens is that we move into what I call the striver story, right? The overcoming story. Well, I'll show you, right? I'm going to make it happen. I am going to be super independent, and I am going to create my own success. And, a certain amount of that is really healthy, right? There's a certain amount of that driver and ambition and taking action, but it's not usually sustainable. And it can also be very lonely to be in that striver place if you're full on 100% of the time. And then the third, and those stories run us, right? And so I'm not saying that you're going to never go into these stories. You're going to heal and become more aware of them, and you'll start healing. And then you have a choice where you can acknowledge it, and then you can take responsibility for it and say, okay, I'm going to let go that I've been in this place, and I'm going to move to a new place. So from the victim story, you might move into the striver story. From the striver story, you can move into what I call the great story. Some of you on here, we've been in this program. I'm a great story coach. As some of you in here have taken the program with me. Great story is where you really surrender to your unique, beautiful brilliance and co-create with the universe what is wanting to move through you, right? The abundance that is wanting to be expressed through you. And it really is more about allowing and receiving and who you're being, and then some doing, right? And we tend to have it backwards. Like, if only I do enough this summer, if only I make things happen, if only I create a lot of stuff, then the success will come. But actually, it's a counterintuitive process. It is about how do you cultivate an environment where you are allowing and receiving and being so that it can come through you. And then you take the actions. Like, of course, there's a place for action. But for many of us, we have to slow down enough to actually hear the messages, receive the messages, see the messages, depending on what your modality is, so that you're going in that direction. You're aligned with that abundance. Now, this may sound really woo-woo to a lot of you, or some of you, as I see some of you here, it may only be a little woo, one woo. Yeah, I see some of you liking this already. I'm just going to check here and see what kind of comments you have here. Okay, yes, okay, good. I see lots of people have joined. Welcome to the new people who have joined. So, for me, I had to, I didn't grow up with this, I didn't grow up with this kind of background. Little by little, I started, finding my way in this kind of spiritual talk and interpersonal growth. And, but what I know is that when I line up as, and allow myself to be that, like, slow down enough to allow myself to be that channel and listen to what is wanting to move through me, I always, that one, story that goes viral all the time is the one about the guy who is in a flood, and he says, he's in a flood. Everybody's like, get out of your house, get out of town. The city's flooding. And he's like, no, God's going to save me. And then, he climbs up onto his roof, and, this guy with a boat comes by, and he's like, no, God's going to save me. And then the helicopter comes by. He's like, nope, God's going to save me. Well, he eventually ends up at the pearly gates, and they're like, why didn't you get help? Why didn't you say yes to somebody saving you? And he's like, I was waiting for God. And it's like, God was working through those people, right? I didn't know we were going to go into a sermon today, but I just love that story that, whether you talk about God, the universe, spirit, divine source, it works through you, right? And these opportunities come to you for you to say yes or say no, it's not aligned. But that's how you make your choices, and that's how you can surrender to that, and that's how you create. All right, so it's you being that vessel, you being that challenge, and then paying attention and saying yes when those opportunities come to you. Say yes to receiving. Okay, part of the abundance mindset is saying yes to receiving. So often, again, this is how you know if you're in that abundance has to come to you. It's like receiving it through you. It's like shifting it to receiving through you. All right. So I can tell you that, like, the more that I started integrating this and allowing the joy to move through me, and joy is a funny thing because a lot of people and all of us have our thermometer or thermostat. I'll put it that way, thermostat for how much joy we will receive. If you've never read the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, it's one of my top 10 books. I go to it quite often, probably a couple times a year. And he talks about a thermostat for success, love, and joy. And I totally believe that I am a joyful person. I allow in a lot of joy, and ooh, I hit my thermostat, right? How much joy will I actually allow before I start shutting it down? And he talked about an example where he was going, him and his wife went to a conference, and he won this really big, prestigious award. Went on stage, got this big award. It was so much joy, right? It was something that was a really big kind of accolade or confirmation of his success. In the ride home, he picks this huge argument with his wife, right? When he got home, they're in their separate wings of the house or wherever they are, in separate places, and he realizes, wow, you know what? I just picked a fight with my wife for no reason. And it was because my body had a hard time, I had a hard time accepting all this joy. And so, he went and talked about it with his wife, who was also very high in personal growth and awareness. And then he started writing a book about it, of course. And what a great way for that message to come through him, right? And to write this book that really resonates with so many. I know so many of you love that book as well. And yeah, see the hearts. It's this, it's seeing where your joy, thermostat is set and allowing yourself to go a little bit, to allow a little bit more into your life. I've seen it happen right in front of my eyes where I've been at a networking event before. I've done this. I've seen people that I'm talking to who've done this where maybe there's I'm talking to somebody, another person comes and joins the conversation. They've looked at the person and pretty much told that person I was talking to, I so want to talk to you. You've been on my list. Maybe it was a podcast interview. Maybe it was a talk about being clients or how we could help each other. And that person couldn't take it in and just kind of breezed it away and didn't actually say, yes, let's do that. I've done that before where somebody will say, oh my gosh, I've heard about you. I would love to talk with you about working with you. And somehow we get home and we get fuzzy brained about this. It's too much joy, right? I can't handle it. So one of the things you want to practice is expanding your capacity for joy. And that starts with noticing where your thermostat is set and where you can't handle more joy. And joy doesn't have to be about all the doing. It can be, I'm going to take a break in between my busy day. I'm going to sit on my deck and I'm going to wait for the hummingbirds to come by. That's how much joy I can allow into my day, right? All right. I'm just checking in here with everybody. Great. I see people saying yes, yes, yes. The more that I have allowed it in, it's like I start setting my expectations. So my expectations, my intentions it's even stronger than intention. It is expectation that the light is going to come to me. Whenever I go to a networking meeting, I sit in my car before I go in because I'm a quasi introvert. So I'm not super extrovert. I'm not super introvert, although I can totally dig being alone and get in my creative hibernation. So I align my energy and I'm like, okay, what do I want? And I notice where there's expectations that used to be there. There was an expectation I'm supposed to go into this networking meeting and get 5 clients. And anything less is I suck, right? Some of you have heard me talk about that. And then so your expectation's so high that and realistically, that's not how you get clients, right? You make connections at networking events that then eventually evolve into clients for the most part. And sometimes you do get clients. But I set my expectations in the car, and I'll say, you know, I want to meet 3 people and have delightful conversations. I just want to be delighted, because what I know is when I'm delighted, then I'm in this great mood. And then when you feel good, you do good, right? You see the theme running through this. So when you feel good, you do good. So it's more about the delightful conversations that then make you really attractive. That then I set the expectations, like 2 opportunities are going to come my way. It could be for speaking. It could be for an interview. It could be for a potential client. Or a referral partner or an affiliate partner. Like, there's so many ways that abundance can show up. All right. So there was, let me tell you another little story that, I'm just trying to decide which one. Let me check on the time. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a sip of water. So I went to a conference a couple years ago. It was a Marianne Williamson conference called Sister Giant. Some of you heard me tell this story. And it was the week after the Giant Women's March and the week before the new president came in. And so energy was freaking high. And so it was in DC. So energy level was, vibrationally wise, was really, really high, which was really kind of intense for me. So I'm so sensitive to energy, as many of you are. And so I really had to manage my energy. Funny story about that is that before the keynote speaker was coming on, before they opened up the doors, they had us all in the hallway, and there's like 2,000 people. And so they're all in this big giant hallway. And I was like, this is just too much energy, and everybody's all crazed up and really passionate. So I go into the bathroom, do my thing. I come out, and there's a little area in the bathroom, like kind of a little waiting room, sort of, you know, where you can just kind of fluff and puff or whatever, to borrow Marie's words. And so I'm just kind of hanging out. I'm like, I'm just going to hang out here because it was a really calming energy. And I thought, I'm just going to see what's going to happen here. And there was another woman who was kind of slowly digging through her suitcase. I think she was kind of doing the same thing. We were kind of protecting our energy. And a minute later, in comes Marianne Williamson. And she's like, oh, hey, ladies. And then she introduces herself to each of us. We all get a hug. She finds out where we're from, why we're here. You know, if I was out there in the energetic crowds, I would have missed that opportunity. Like, you never know when magic's going to happen, right? And then she goes about and does her pre-show business. So at that same event, when I finally did go in and strategically sat, like not in the front, not in the right in the middle, but kind of off on one of the rows where I could have easy access. Those of you who are energetically sensitive know what I'm talking about. And I get my markers out. I'm going to doodle, you know, what we're going to talk about, what they're talking about. And I'm counting the seats and counting how many people are there. And I thought, gosh, surely I know how many people. I mean, I'm going to know somebody here. It's 2,000 people here. Surely I know somebody. And then not a minute later, probably 2 minutes, this woman that we went through a year-long program with shows up. Beverly, haven't spoken in 5 years. We both have gone through a divorce. And she's highly energetically sensitive as well. And so we rekindled our friendship. And since then have gone on all these trips together and things like that. So it's things like that you can say, well, that was just a coincidence. Well, I believe that coincidences are like the universe's way of having fun, right? Creating these synchronicities. I prefer to call them synchronicities rather than coincidence. And it is the universe's way of saying, let me see if you're paying attention. Let me see if you're noticing. And things like that have happened all the time. And I know many of you on here, you're seeing that. And so I'm bringing that up because part of having an abundance mindset is noticing the synchronicities and putting them on your joy flow sightings list, right? Keep looking for evidence of that. And whenever you doubt, I used to wonder, like, is this intuition? Is this a synchronicity? Is this the universe working through me? And whenever I've learned, I went to a workshop with Sonia Choquette, and she said the answer to that is yes, right? So the answer to that is yes. Just say yes. It's the magic working, right? It's the universe working through you. And the more you say yes, the more you will start trusting it. You'll start listening. You'll start paying attention. And then the more you start attracting those synchronicities to you. Yeah, let me take another sip of water. And if you have comments about what we're talking about here, what I'm talking about, or things that you love, please hit the love button. We love that. I love that. And make comments. I love to hear your favorite parts. I love getting that feedback. So one of the ways, so first of all, another strategy or tip for cultivating an abundance mindset is to get really clear about what does abundance look like. All right? When you're not clear about it, then for the most part, most of us go to money and clients. Okay, and so that is part of it, but you want to expand your definition of abundance. Okay, when you really expand your definition of abundance, it might be money, it might be clients, it might be all the different ways that money can come to you. Because money can sometimes come with surprise checks or people who just want to pay you out of nowhere. Rebates that you weren't expecting, found gift cards, winning the lottery, right? All those things. Also can come from clients, but it also comes through speaking opportunities, joint venture opportunities, right? People who want to refer you or be an affiliate partner for you. That's abundance. Abundance also shows up through ideas, right? All sorts of ideas that come to you. This morning I was on the way to meet a colleague for a cup of tea, and I had like the most brilliant idea, right? It was this really cool idea around my joyful business plan. And I'm starting to think about, planning for 2020 and what am I going to do different with this year's joyful business plan product. And I got this really great idea. To me, that is like, oh my God, that's a joyful sighting. That is an abundant, wonderful, beautiful, luscious idea. Abundance can look like the hummingbirds, right? Abundance can look like this little stone right here. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's not too great with the light. It's a white stone. You would say it's nothing special, but you know what? My son, my youngest son, both my sons, they went to Hawaii last week with their dad. And my younger son brought back this stone from the beach that was in front of his hotel because he knows that I like stones and it's thoughtful. And I know that he held on to it and kept track of it. And the fact that he even remembered to bring me something like that's so full of love and thoughtfulness. And so it sits right on my desk, and it just, to me, that's a sign of abundance. It's a sign of love. Again, it looks like, the flowers and the trees and those little glimpses of water you get off the side of the interstate always feel like, oh, look, there's water. That always feels like abundance to me. The woman I met for tea today was just a delightful, wonderful connection and conversation. We'd known each other for a couple of years and kept meaning to get together, and then we finally did. That, to me, is abundance flowing. Right? So yeah, if you want to put on the chat, what are signs of abundance for you? What does that look like? Love to hear what your versions are. And if you're having trouble looking for those signs of abundance, you can ask for help. So you can ask for help here in this, tangible world, from your friends and your coach. They can help you with that. You can also ask for, your spirit or your guides. Your spirit guides or the universe to ask you, like, hey, point me in the direction. Help me pay attention to where it's flowing. So one of the things that I love to think about, and those of you who are my clients or in my program do know, I talk about the universal abundance current. It's kind of my riff off of that movie Finding Nemo, where Nemo is and Dory are trying to save his son, find his son. He's all the way on a boat, all the way made it to Sydney. There's no way they can make it to Sydney in time. They're going to lose him. They make their way, and they see these sea turtles who are on the East Australian Current, right? The EAC, but EAC. And they're like, come on, dude. They're all like doing the backstroke. Dude, come on, get in the abundance current. The current goes right by Sydney. You'll get there faster, right? It's a lot easier. And so I like to rip off of that and say it's the universal abundance current, the UAC. And, the current can be, it's everywhere, right? And you can either be in it or you can be out of it. It's actually your choice. So it's not that you have to call it to you. You actually just have to say, oh, yes, it's here. I'm a part of it. So the UAC, and you can be in the part that's moving fast, like in, do hey dude, and swimming, doing the backstroke as in Nemo, or you can be in the slower part of the current. Maybe for you, the universal abundance current runs, slow, steady, and gentle. Or you can go into different currents, right? But what I want you to know about that is that the flow is always there. It's always there for you to say yes to. So your job is to accept the invitation, right? To say, yes, I want to be in this flow. I want to be in the current. I want to be in the abundance current. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to be worth it. You don't have to deserve it. You already are. I don't even want to say deserving, because I have a funny energy with that word. Deserving just still feels like you have to prove something. There is nothing to prove. You just have to say yes. And you can choose to be out of it or in it. There's no wrong way to do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the more that you are conscious of it and say, oh yes, I want to be in the universal abundance current. I'm going to notice my joy flow sightings. I'm going to do the things that I know to do and that help me with how I be in the universal abundance current. That was a lot of doing and being. Hopefully you guys understood what I was saying. Yeah, because it's so much more about, here's where I point you. Notice if you're feeling connection or if you're feeling isolation. And actually notice if you're choosing connection or choosing isolation. Okay. And we all go through this. Okay. There are times where I know I can isolate, I can just bury in my home and do a good binge on Netflix and just want to, block out all the crazy stuff going on in the world, or even, you kind of burrow into that doubt vortex and say, you just start burrowing in, and going deeper and deeper. You get to choose. You get to choose. Do you feel connection, or are you choosing isolation? Not saying there's not times to be alone. There's nothing wrong with being alone. We all need that alone time. That's different. You can be alone and feel connected, or you can be alone and feel isolated. Okay? You can be in a crowd and feel isolated. You can be in a crowd and feel connected. Okay? I just happened to glance at the chat and I see Lucinda says, I want a third woo. She's back on the woo, woo, woo. Yeah, so what does that look like? When you have, when you're in connection, and you have the woo, 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 right? That where you're in connection and, I'll share one story with the woman that I reconnected with, Beverly. Last year, I took a week for Memorial Day holiday and went to New Orleans. And we went to a concert, and then we went to her beach house on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And we were taking a walk the first morning. And we were setting our intentions. We were lining up our energy. What are our expectations for this week that we're going to be spending together? And I said, I really would love to see signs of connection, signs of expansion, and signs of in particular, signs that a healthy relationship is possible, with a partner. And I hadn't really experimented that, not experimented, I hadn't really gone there. So I was just starting to crack the door of, what if? And I asked the universe to be really gentle and clear. And sure enough, we looked up from our conversation and there was a rainbow right in front of us. So again, I could say, wow, is that just a coincidence? Or I can say, yes, that's the universe confirming, I believe. Okay, I believe. The next day, we followed the flow and we went, took a little trip to see this friendship tree that's a 500-year, it's a 500-year, maybe it's a 300-year old oak. It's the oldest oak in Mississippi. And so we found this, and it was just, oh my God, it was just amazing monstrosity of a tree with limbs that are down on the ground because they were so old and heavy. And it was perfect because it was called the Friendship Tree. And I was with my new reconnected friend, Beverly. After that amazing experience, we decided we wanted to go on a late Sunday afternoon, and we wanted to go dancing. We wanted to go to a little beach bar and find a place to hang out and watch the water and listen to some great music, maybe even dance. And so we ended up at the different place than she thought. Of course, perfect synchronicity. Had this really cool second level place that was right on the ocean, right on the Gulf Coast, and they were playing stuff like Love Shack. It was just really fun. And so Beverly and I are out there dancing. It's all women who are out there dancing. And there's this older woman who was out there. And we're all kind of just dancing as this group. And then this Bruno Mars song comes on, and her husband comes out there, an older gentleman, and they are just, oh my God, they were the best dancers ever to Bruno Mars, right? Like very current. Like I'm totally like still in my, like 80s mode, and they're over there doing, Bruno Mars moves. I mean, the husband was even like dancing his feet up on the wall and coming back. I mean, it was incredible. And we're just kind of doing our thing, and in awe, probably our mouths hanging open, of this couple. And they were having so much fun together. And then we went back to where our table was. And I remember thinking, wow, that was like a sign of, people in a healthy, fun relationship. Then that woman comes over to us. We don't even know the woman. We weren't talking to her on the dance floor. We made eye contact. She comes over to us and she said, I just felt guided to come over and talk to you two. I'm not really sure why, so I just want to say hello. And we just totally praised her and our husband for dancing. We were talking about how inspiring that was. And she said, well, I just want you to know that's possible for you too as well. I can just tell you're really great women. And she just had all these positive things to say out of nowhere. And then she left, and we didn't even get her name. So we started calling her Angel, and that she was an angel who came to deliver this message about relationships. And it's things like that just, it leaves me in awe of what can happen in the world, these amazing, again, synchronicities or messengers. She felt like a messenger for both of us of, that a healthy, fun relationship at any age is possible. All right, and so I'll finish up the story about this trip. Then we're going home, and we start to see another rainbow. So we pull over, get out of the car. We thought we're going to watch this rainbow. Turns out that it's a double rainbow on the water, end to end. You can see both ends in the water, double rainbow. I've never seen that end to end, like where it hits the ground, so to speak, hits the horizon. And it just felt like this magical confirmation of all this incredible synchronicities that had happened through this whole trip. And you can see a picture of that that's on my personal Facebook page. That's the double rainbow that's on there. It still just kind of brings me to tears when I think about it. And again, I could say any of this stuff, coincidence, maybe. But what I also know is the more that I line up my energy with what does abundance really look like, and set my expectations that I'm going to be delighted and enchanted, and I'm going to give delight and enchantment, then things start happening. And then I start noticing, and I start affirming it, and then more starts happening. Take a sip of water. Again, please give me some feedback, that you're listening to this. I always love to hear your good feedback. So I'm going to wrap up with a couple of things. Another thing that I do to cultivate that mindset, and this is a little take off of an exercise in The Big Leap, the book, The Big Leap, is that I see myself as receiving abundance. So spending time visualizing and being in the energy of I am open to receive. I'm holding in my arms. You can't see it in the video. I am open to receiving. And so every morning when I do my journaling, most mornings, I'm not perfect, or that is perfect, depending on how you look at it. But I write a quote every morning that says, today I am open to receive more abundance, beauty, joy, laughter, connection, love, money, and I inspire others to do the same. Now, every morning I write a little bit different words, kind of depending on what's coming up. It might be today I'm open to receive more inspiration, creativity, love and money, or success, and I inspire others to do the same. And that puts me in a, whenever I write that ending part and inspire others to do the same, that's when I get really excited. Like, oh, I can't wait to do this Joyful Business Live show because I'm going to inspire others to do the same. Like every opportunity in my business feels like me inspiring others to do the same. So I look for ways to start putting the abundance out there. And yeah, and then it's like the more you put it out there, the more you're able to receive. All right. So I've got so much I could share with you, but I want to wrap up here. So I'm going to wrap up with this last bit, and that is that reminder about the disconnection or the connection and the isolation. Noticing when you feel separate from the love, the beauty, the magic, the abundance, and then what is the subtle shift that you can do in who you're being and what you're doing. I do feel like it's our job to be connected. And that the universe is looking for ways. Oops, my phone's ringing. The universe is looking for ways for us to get things done in the world through us, and that we have to be connected in order for that to happen. And it's a choice, right? And when we're isolated, it's not isolating. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that's a reminder that we want to choose again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know how you like it. You can send me an email at laura@joyfulbusiness.com, or you can send me a Facebook message, or certainly right below in the chat. Tell me what you liked about this. What part was your favorite? I hope you'll join me next time on Friday, July 26th. That's when I'm going to interview Michelle Eisenberg, who is my friend in California with Happy Family Academy, and who is an essential oil extraordinaire. And we're going to talk about how can you use essential oils in your business to help you deal with things like overwhelm and attracting clients and getting stuck and being in the doubt vortex and all sorts of things like that. I can't wait to share that with you. And meanwhile, have a wonderful, fabulous weekend. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks.